Hosick, and I'm the Adult Programming Librarian at the East Brunswick Public Library. Thank you for coming out to tonight's presentation. And I want to introduce our presenter and something else also. Hold on one second, we'll pull up the camera. Tonight's program is Play, Create, Share, a crash course on Twitch streaming with Frank Skornia, who's the Digital Librarian at the Ferguson Library in Stamford, Connecticut. This event is sponsored by the Friends of the Library. They do fundraisers throughout the year, usually the book sale, but they've now gone virtual with all of their fundraisers. So if you would like to contribute, you can go to ebpl.org/friends and make a contribution or learn more about what they do and support them. So without further ado, Frank, thank you so much. And we're excited to see what you have to share with us today as part of New Jersey Makers Day.
Thank you very much, Melissa. I am very happy that you asked me to be here, and I am really excited to be talking about this with all of you. So first off, who am I? As Melissa introduced, I am the Digital Librarian at the Ferguson Library in Stamford, Connecticut. But I'm also beyond that there. So some of the things that I also do is I'm a gamer and crafter. So I spend a lot of time playing video games and playing board games. In addition, my latest craft that I'm really into now is quilting. So I've been kind of doing a lot of that lately. I am also kind of on the side as a hobby. I am a Twitch streamer, which is why I am here and talking to you tonight. So I have been doing streaming on Twitch, God, I think almost 4 years now. And it's mainly kind of a hobby. I do a few nights a week here or there. I've had times where I've been off and kind of gotten back on again. But it's a lot of fun. I really got into it to kind of start playing around with the technology and seeing what other people are doing. And it was just kind of like it's kind of grown on me. And I keep gathering new things and new equipment that I'm going to be kind of talking to you about, kind of ways to kind of get into it, kind of ease into it, and then kind of start growing and kind of building as you're working, as you want to play around with doing things on Twitch or even any of the other streaming platforms. So I'm just going to kind of quickly kind of go over kind of some of the stuff that we're going to talk about tonight. I'm going to give you kind of a brief look at what live streaming is. We're going to look at just kind of the general kind of big picture, like a 2 mile up kind of look at kind of what live streaming is and kind of what it is today. And then we're going to kind of narrow in and look at kind of what Twitch is and look at a little bit of its history and kind of why we're talking about that tonight. And then I'm going to introduce you to one of kind of the main pieces of software that you bring in or that you use to be able to broadcast out onto any of the streaming platforms. We'll be looking at OBS Studio. So I'll be giving you a look at OBS Studio and kind of a brief kind of talk through on kind of how to start setting it up. We're not going to go that much in depth with that today because it just isn't time and there's a lot involved with that. And during that time, I'm also going to be talking about kind of the different kind of equipment that you can use to get yourself streaming. And then as you get into it, ways that you're able to start kind of amplifying and augmenting what you're doing. And then we're going to actually launch a Twitch stream. I'm going to actually launch a stream onto my channel just so you can kind of see how that all goes as well, too. Questions are welcome at any time. I'm hoping that there will be time at the end for more for like focus questions that you can ask anything that you want. But anytime, feel free to ask questions and I'll try to answer them as they come up with that there. So I'm going to kind of keep an eye on the comments that you're sending. And if I see anything that seems to be good to answer at that point, I will answer it. So let's go in and let's just kind of start. There we go. Get my PowerPoint presentation kind of working properly. So what is live streaming? We hear it a lot now. We hear the term streaming a lot in our lives now. We hear it with our pop cultural entertainment. We hear it in regards to Netflix and YouTube, HBO Max, all these different kind of streaming services. We're seeing it as kind of a replacement for our cable services and our movies. So what do they mean by live streaming? So live streaming refers to online streaming media. So that's recorded and broadcast at the same time. We are streaming right now. So streaming refers to how you're viewing the data on your computer, how you're viewing the content on your computer. And the reason why I have a picture here of a river is that a really good way to imagine streaming is to imagine that your computer screen is a window looking out onto a river of data that's flowing past through your computer. And so all of the content, so if you go to Netflix and you bring up a program on Netflix and you start watching it, your computer or your television or your Chromecast or whatever device you're using to stream doesn't download that whole movie or program onto the computer. What it does is it downloads little bits at a time, And it's kind of like it runs it through as a stream, is that you're seeing just a little bit of the data at a time, and then it flows past and you see the next bit of data. So for you as a human watching it, it's just kind of an endless stream going by. That's where the streaming comes by. And so it's like sitting and watching a river and watching the water flow by. So with us live streaming right now, the images that you're seeing of me and my presentation here are like the objects on the stream that flow by your little window that you're looking out onto the river. And then they're gone down to the downriver, and you're seeing the next thing that's flowing down the river. So that's what streaming really means. Almost everything that you watch online today is streamed to your computer, but not everything is live streamed. Much of it is what they call video on demand content. And so if you are watching this video actually after the fact, you're not seeing me live stream, you're seeing a recording of me, you're seeing me on demand, either on the East Brunswick Public Library's YouTube channel or wherever else they're making this content available to you. For those of you who are sitting and watching it to me, watching live right now, you are seeing it, the live streaming going on. So the advantage of live streaming is that you can have real-time interactions. I keep hitting my microphone, and you think at this time I'd be better with that there. We'd have real-time interactions with your audience. So as we're going through, you can send me comments and questions, and I can react to them, and you can react to what I'm doing, and we're kind of feeding off to each other. It's the performer and the audience kind of feeding off one of another there that you can do in a live event that you can't do in a pre-recorded activity. But the thing about live streaming is that audience can exist anywhere in the world that can access your broadcast. So it doesn't have to be somebody sitting up on a stage playing their music to the audience that's sitting there in the club with them. They can be playing their music out onto Twitch, and anybody around the world that can connect to Twitch and open up that channel can hear that performer or see that performer and hear them playing their music. And so that's kind of the advantage that live streaming does, is it gives you that live interaction, that live connection with people, but you're doing it through the internet, and your reach is much greater throughout the entire world. The disadvantages of it is, of course, you are live. So that means that any mistakes or things that happen to you while you're live streaming, your audience will see that as well too. There isn't a way to, like when you do something pre-recorded, you can go back and edit out those mistakes and just show your successes. But, you know, that's part of the charm of live streaming. The part of the charm is seeing us like human and alive and active, as seeing us as we make mistakes. There might be mistakes going on tonight. I have kind of some complicated things kind of set up here. And so there might be some things as I'm switching between things. You're going to see kind of the backstage little aspect of things sometimes as I'm kind of switching through things. But that's, again, part of the beauty of a live thing over kind of pre-recorded. So when you stream, you need to select where your audience will find you. And so there's a variety of different live streaming platforms out there, and you're probably watching this on one of those live streaming platforms. There's Twitch, of course. There's Facebook Live. There's YouTube. There's Instagram Live. You can stream out to there. And there's Periscope is another big one that's out there. So there's all these different kind of platforms. And so when you decide that you want to start streaming and you want to start doing live streams out there, you have to decide which platform you want to go to. Some platforms are better suited for different content than others. Other ones just have a better audience or different interactions with the audience as well too. So as you go through and decide if you want to do this for yourself, you'll have to decide the platform. Tonight, we're going to be focusing actually on Twitch itself and kind of what Twitch offers and how to kind of work with Twitch itself. So with that, let's move on. Yep, there's the great address for Twitch TV. What is Twitch? So we're going to look at some live streaming in Twitch. So kind of start off, back in the early 2000s, in the first noughts, the 00s, there was a streaming platform called Justin.tv. And Justin.tv was one of the primary platforms for live streaming on the internet at that time. There wasn't a lot of other competition at the time. They weren't as well known. Justin TV was the big one. And as it developed, they started video game streamers, people who played video games live out to audiences. started to becoming a growing population of streamers on Justin.tv. So Justin.tv at some point, actually, because there used to be a lot more what they call vloggers or video loggers. So people who would actually like live stream their lives around them. They'd walk around with cameras, and people would actually like watch their lives. It was like you had an endless series of reality TV for free on your internet. It was a wild time. If some of you can remember that there. But the video game streamers, the population was growing. There was new demands for them. And so Justin.tv spun off to Twitch. Twitch being the name of kind of a style of gaming where you have to kind of have fast reflexes and actions to kind of play the game. So kind of different kind of shooter games and action-y games. And so the Twitch comes from just kind of that Twitch control kind of scheme on the controller. And so Twitch was originally launched primarily to focus on video game streaming. And it quickly took over Justin TV in terms of population and viewership and popularity. Justin.tv shut down in 2014, and in that year, Amazon bought Twitch, and they've been kind of the owner of Twitch since then. As kind of it was a competition with YouTube and kind of getting into the live stream space. There was a lot of discussions back in 2014 about whether or not YouTube was going to buy Twitch or another company was going to do it. It was rumored for a long time that YouTube was going to grab onto this incredibly valuable property. I think Amazon ended up buying it for somewhere around $2 to $3 billion. So they saw a lot of value in Twitch, in live streaming, especially at that time, video game live streaming. Now, Twitch started off as a video game streaming site. So people would choose a game and they'd sit there and play, and people would watch on, cheer, or kind of follow along with what they're doing. Twitch remains predominantly video game streaming, but over the years, there's been a lot more other content and activities that are showing up that people are doing on Twitch. And so Twitch has become more of a general purpose platform now for a wide variety of different activities. So if you do want to get into live streaming and doing something, it doesn't have to be video games. You can actually pretty much do whatever you want as long as you don't break Twitch's terms of service and their policies. So people do things like crafts and artwork. I mean, so you could go on to any time on Twitter and you can watch people doing things like quilting and knitting and sewing. They'll be doing needlepoint. You have artwork, so people are doing painting, they're doing digital artwork, or they're painting on canvases, or they're sculpting, and so it just, if you really just want to get in and see that kind of like people actually creating something, there's a whole slew of people on Twitch doing this any hours of the day. People are cooking on Twitch. So people are doing their own cooking shows, and people who've set up their channels so that they're doing, a lot of them, you watch them and they seem amateur, but a lot of times they rival what you watch if you watch the Food Network or like the cooking channel, because they're kind of using that idea. And again, because it's amateurs, it's people like you and me doing this, there's almost like it seems almost more authentic in a way too. So if you wanted to show you for your cooking, you want to try new experiments, you can kind of do that there. People are playing music. Twitch has become one of the incredible kind of avenues for artists of all sorts, musicians and visual artists, writers. There was I was reading a story a couple of years ago about a woman who actually, she does a lot of like programming, coding and writing programs. And after a while, she just started live streaming herself, writing programs and creating games and things. And so people came and watched, and she kind of formed an audience around that kind of thing. People do video logging or vlogs. I mentioned that before, where they're talking about their real lives, or they're going around and showing their real life as they live it, streaming it to anybody who wants to watch it on the internet. People are doing that. Just like the cooking shows, people are creating talk shows and video podcasts or broadcasts. And so in a way, my latest thinking lately, as I've been kind of thinking about a lot of different things, with digital content, is I've realized that Twitch has kind of taken on the form of what we used to see as like public access TV or like community radio, where the community would have access to tools like a television studio or a radio studio and be able to kind of curate and put together their own program. But on Twitch and the other streaming platforms, people have been able to put this together without needing like specialized access to like television cameras or radio antennas. They can all do it from their computers, going out to the internet to anybody who wants to watch it. And it's pretty incredible, the creativity and what people are doing, and enough that there's people making a lot of money on this, on either playing video games or creating shows on Twitch. Twitch has also become a broadcaster of major events. So esports has always kind of been a big thing on Twitch because it ties in closely with their large audience of video game streamers. So esports being people playing video games competitively, whether it be something like Overwatch or like the Counter-Strike games, or Fortnite has become a big one now. People are going and watching like professionals compete against each other, just as we would go and watch a baseball or football game. Talking about those, sports have actually kind of started going on to Twitch and using Twitch either to broadcast reruns of games or to provide alternate content to the games that you're seeing on TV. So things like commentary and other camera views. Every single major sports league has a channel on Twitch, and they'll be showing things throughout the time. During the pandemic, auto racing, Formula One racing, actually got its Formula One racers together and put them into racing simulators and actually broadcast that on. They live streamed them. So it was essentially the players were playing a racing video game that was just very, very realistic. And they streamed that out on the internet, and people watched that there as a replacement for actual auto racing during the early days of the pandemic. The other big thing that kind of happens a lot on Twitch now too are things like charity events. So you may have heard terms of things like Extra Life or Games Done Quickly. And so these are events where people will stream and show games or talk or have guests and interviews, and they will ask for donations that will be given to various different charities, whatever charity they're supporting. So these are different kind of events that Twitch has gone and supported and has really worked to aid and kind of give them a platform so that they can actually reach out and reach out to as many people as possible. And then there's also kind of other special events that happen. So a couple of ones that I just want to that are kind of fun to mention is that Twitch at one point broadcast the entire run of Bob Ross's painting program that used to air on PBS. In fact, you can still go and find the Bob Ross channel on Twitch, and you can watch a random episode of him talking through and painting. And it brought new attention to Bob Ross, brought new attention to PBS, and this whole concept of like who he was and just kind of the calming demeanor that he kind of presented. A while back, Twitch actually reran the whole series of Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood, also from PBS. They ran that through on there as one of the anniversaries. So there's these kind of different special kind of things that you can find kind of digging into YouTube, or not YouTube, into Twitch, and find them all available on there. So in short, again, as I mentioned before, you can live stream pretty much anything you want, as long as it doesn't violate the terms of services for the platform that you're streaming on or copyright. And I'll talk a little bit about copyright things a little bit later on there. But you're not here to kind of just have me talk about history and kind of this stuff there and such. We actually kind of want to see kind of the meat and potatoes of what actually is involved in streaming and how to kind of get in and start doing this here. So there are many different ways to start broadcasting. So what I'm going to do is we're going to go here, and I want to introduce you to kind of the idea of the streaming ecosystem. The streaming ecosystem is basically your software and hardware, all the different kind of components that you kind of need to bring together for your streaming experience to be able to kind of broadcast out to Twitch, in this case, to Twitch. So first off, what kind of equipment you need? Well, one of the things you just really need is you can actually start everything off with just a smartphone. This is where many people, way back in the early days of live streaming, when it started becoming big on the internet, this is what they were doing. They were using their smartphones, the cameras on their smartphones, and they were video logging or logging their life. So you can create a channel on Twitch using the mobile app on your iPhone or Android phone, and you can actually start broadcasting. It will pull in from your camera. You can talk. You have the microphone built in. And so this is the easiest way to get into doing live streaming at all. If that's the kind of thing that you want to do, is you just need your smartphone because you have a camera built into it. You have a microphone built into it. It has the internet connection built into it. And all you need to do is connect it to the platform and just start sharing what you want to share on it. So either a camera or a tablet on there. But then as you go through, you may decide you want to start looking at other things. Another easy way to get into streaming is through on video game consoles. So here I'm showing both the PlayStation and the Xbox. Both of the Xbox, whether you're into like the Xbox One, the PlayStation 4, or the newer consoles that are out, the Xbox Series X and the PlayStation 5, they have built-in broadcast capabilities now. So it's almost as simple as pressing one or two buttons on your controller, and after you have it connected to your Twitch channel, you press a couple buttons on your controller, and the game that you're playing on the PlayStation or on the Xbox gets streamed out to Twitch or to PlayStation's own little streaming network that they have, but it gets streamed out to Twitch. So you're able to right off the bat, you don't need anything. You don't need if you don't want to have your face on screen, you don't need to have a camera. You can do all of that right with the device that you already have. You can hook in a microphone and it can pick up your voice if you wanted to have commentary. Those are all options that you can have. But I'm going to come back to consoles a little bit later also, because there is a way to kind of fit them even more into your streaming ecosystem. So we're just going to kind of push that off to the side right now. So once you've created your channel, you've chosen your name on Twitch, you've signed up, you've gotten you're signed in, and we'll look at kind of what the backside of Twitch looks like a little bit later on. Once you have that, now you need to figure out, if you want to be able to stream from your computer, you need to figure out how your computer is going to take what's on the computer and send it out to Twitch. And so for that, you need encoding software. You need applications. And there's a variety of different ones that are out there that are available for you to use. A lot of them are free, and there's some that are a little bit more difficult to use than others, and there's some that offer different features. So one of the ones out there is a program called OBS Studio. OBS Studio is, at this point, is probably the streaming application of choice. The reason for it is that it's free and open source, so anybody can go and download and start working with it. It's updated frequently, and it's become incredibly powerful. That power does make it a little bit more complicated to use, but for a lot of basic setups, as we'll see a little bit later on tonight, I'll show you kind of some of the basic setups just to kind of get you going. And then you're able to kind of go out and kind of start doing some more complicated things as you go through. Some other variety of things out there for software is there's a software called Streamlabs OBS. And just as the name says, it's actually a piece of software that's built off of OBS. So it uses the OBS code, but it kind of has a little bit different interface on there. It makes it, I find it a little bit easier, so because it integrates with the streaming platforms better. So if you can connect Streamlabs OBS directly to Twitch, and then you'll be able to get things like your chat and your statistics and when people follows right in the application. You don't need to have other windows open and everything. If you do want to start streaming to Twitch, I'm going to be talking about OBS, but everything I talk about in OBS tonight will carry over to Streamlabs OBS, and I really kind of highly recommend that. It is really kind of the easier piece of software to get in and start using compared to some of the other ones out there. Some other options out there, there's NVIDIA Shadowplay. If you have an NVIDIA graphics card in your computer and you have the up-to-date drivers and the GeForce experience that comes with that, this is a feature that comes with NVIDIA graphics cards. And it's the easiest way or it's one of the easier ways to broadcast or to record gaming on your computer. It doesn't have the capability of pulling in things like a face cam or like a microphone for commentary, but it will just record the game itself. So if you're looking at just like recording things for video purposes or just broadcasting the game itself, it's a really easy kind of way to get into that if you have the hardware. And then a couple other ones out there. There's XSplit Gamecaster, which is a free version of XSplit software. XSplit is one of the premium streaming applications out there. When I was first starting this year, they were one of the big ones, and OBS was just kind of starting. At this time, I think OBS is really kind of OBS Studios is really one of the best ways to kind of get in, kind of dive into that there versus some of the other options that are out there. And then there's also Elgato Game Capture. So Elgato is they're a company that has really kind of settled into a niche of making streaming products or different accessories and products for streaming. So if you do get into more live streaming kind of things, you'll probably be looking at their products, at least as an idea of what to get or buying them, because they've kind of really settled in as being kind of the company that's providing this stuff to streamers. And one of the things they do, and I'll be talking about more about capture devices later on, is they have devices that can help capture gameplay or any sort of like media content that you have and bring it to your computer. And their software can also do things like broadcast and share. But tonight we're going to focus on OBS Studio, as you see here, because it really is one of the best options to get started. And once you get started with that there, it's a lot easier to carry those skills over to a lot of other things going on. So this is actually a good opportunity. What I'm going to do now is I'm actually going to show you what OBS is. So please pardon as I swap programs here. There we go. So as you should see, this is what OBS software. I see somebody mentions Streamlabs is the ish, and yeah, Streamlabs is actually it's a really great. I actually use it for my regular streaming, simply because it really is a kind of a convenient setup and kind of going. But if you start with OBS Studio, when you first open it up, get it installed and walk through the setup, one of the nice things that OBS Studio has done in recent versions is that when you first install it and set it up, it will ask you, are you going to be using this mainly for live streaming, or are you going to use it for recording? And it will kind of configure itself better for whatever purposes that you want to do. So once you've installed it and gotten it set up here, this is kind of the view that you are presented with. And so let's just kind of quickly go through some of the different parts that we see here on the screen. So right up here, taking up most of our screen, here in the middle is the preview screen. This is where you're able to assemble what is sent out on the broadcast. So this is, and I'll be talking about what you assemble as you go on. And so we'll be looking at, this is where you're able to design the look of kind of what you're broadcasting and sharing out there. Moving down to the left, and all of these boxes are actually movable. You can actually click and drag them around, so you can arrange them as you're more comfortable working with the software. This is just the default when you first install it, how things are set up. So down here on the bottom left, we have the scenes box. So scenes are a collection of the different pieces that you want to, a scene is a collection of different pieces that you want to see to your that you want to send out to your broadcast. A scene has a lot of different parts on there, but you can have multiple scenes in your broadcast. And so usually what you want to do is you want to think about the different ways that you want to present yourself during your live stream. So for example, what you're watching right now, you're seeing my camera, my face here, sitting to the left of the screen that's showing OBS. So that's one way of presenting this here. It's my face cam next to an application that's being viewed there. There may be a preference, like when we first started off, we had Melissa and I sitting next to each other, face to face next to each other. So you may want to have a scene where you're showing just primarily your face. You're not showing any other content on there because you want to talk to your audience, or there's something that you want to talk about, and you're trying to maybe do something in the background, and you want them to be able to see your face as you're talking without seeing what else is on your screen. So there's setups for, there's scenes for like when you're getting started and you're waiting for people to come in and start watching. You can do kind of a get starting, so people know that, hey, your stream is active and it's going to be starting soon. Just hold on for a little second, and then the broadcaster will be with you in just a moment and start broadcasting. I like to have a be right back screen as well too, because there's those times when you're sitting there for a couple hours, you do need to get up and nature calls or the doorbell rings. There are times where you do need to get up from your seat. You're not sitting in front of your camera. You can go to a be right back screen, so that what happens is it lets people, your audience, know that, okay, the stream is still going on, the person's not available, but you know what, hold on tight and they'll be there soon. So those different kind of scenes, you can kind of put different elements available on there. And then the scene is made up of different sources. And so you can see the next box that we have going over here on the right is our sources. And this is where we're going to spend a kind of a lot of time kind of talking about. This is where you spend a lot of time designing and doing a lot of tweaking and working is with the sources and what's in the scene that's available right up here. So the sources are the design elements. They're the different pieces that you use to put together the scene. So I always like to use like a good example as if you imagine like yourself being a presenter on a stage for a play, and when you look at the stage, there's things like there's the curtains on the outside, and the curtains closing, that's your be right back, or you're getting started, because then you open up the curtains. You have your scenery, you have a backdrop going on the backdrop, you have your scenery, you may have props on the stage that you're handling. And so all of those there kind of fit over into what we see with the scenes that you set up in OBS, so with the different sources. So you might have your face cam, that's you, the presenter. You might have the backdrop. You might have a picture just in the background in case your content doesn't fill up the whole screen. They're not just seeing this black box back there. They're seeing something else behind it. You have your props. You might have things like counters or text or labels or captions, and those different kind of things that you can put onto the screen as well. So one of the nice things when you're thinking about designing your scenes and you're putting in the different sources is you can hide and display sources really easily. And I'll show that once we start putting in some sources, you'll be able to see I can easily hide or show different things. So it's always helpful to be ambitious and add in everything that you think you might use. And even if you're not using it at that time, it's easier to hide it or show it than to try to add it in when you decide to use it. And plus, that allows you to kind of experiment to do things when you're not broadcasting, when you're not live. You can kind of test with it. And then when you're live, you can just hide the pieces that you don't want to show at that time. And so sources can be different things. They can be cameras, they can be microphones, they can be game or computer content. So it doesn't have to be games. You can show web pages, you can show software. I'm showing you OBS right now. Audio, videos, you can play videos on there. You can do text, you can do images. There's a whole variety of different kind of things. And you can even see down here, these little icons demonstrate. We have a picture, we have what's on the computer screen. We have like a browser. You can show a web page on there. You can show an image or a photo or a webcam or camera on there. Over here, kind of moving over to the right, we have our audio mixer. So this shows us the different audio that's in play on the computer. And as you add in things that have audio levels on there and such, it will add different lines, and you can kind of see how they interact, what's louder than another. And then over here on the right, we have our controls. You can see it actually calls controls. And so this is where you have your buttons to start streaming, start recording, and your settings that are available in there. So let's get in and let's start seeing what happens when we start adding. We just have a scene here called scene. Normally what happens is it's useful. You can come over here and we can rename scenes. So we can call this our main presentation, just as kind of an example there. And then what happens is we need to start adding in sources. You can tell right now it's kind of chiding us. You don't have any sources because there's nothing to show up here. So let's go in and let's start adding some sources. You can kind of see how this starts working. So we're going to go in and we are going to add in for first thing we're going to do is we're going to add in an audio input capture. We want to capture our voice. We want to be able to speak out to the people that we're broadcasting. So I'm going to go and add in an audio input capture. And so here, this gives me our create select source box. I'm able to give it a name here. I'm just going to call this one microphone. You can get creative. I tend to be pretty straightforward because I don't want to try to guess what different things are. So I'm going to hit OK, and now I get to choose kind of which microphone I'm using. By default, it's using whatever my default is. I like to come in and specifically choose the microphone that I'm using, simply so that it doesn't surprise me when something else isn't working. And then I'm going to hit OK, and now you can see now right over here in the audio mixer, here's the microphone, and you can actually see it interacting with it as I'm talking. It's peaking, it's hitting there because I'm speaking into the microphone and it's picking it all up. You can see right over here on the left under the sources, it's listed there, and you can see actually now there's a little I button here. I can hide it if I want to, and when I hide it, you can see it's no longer available right over here. And I show it again. And so that's one way of, like, if you wanted to have a scene that you don't want to have anything speaking, or you don't want your microphone to accidentally pick up, you can just hide it there. Or if you're doing something with the scene and you don't want the microphone, you can either mute it or you can just hide it. And then it's something that's not something to worry about. You don't have to worry, is the microphone muted or not in that situation. So talking about microphones, let's hop back to our presentation here, because I just wanted to kind of this is a good time to kind of talk about different kind of audio equipment that we might want to use. So we're going to talk about microphones a little bit. So a microphone is pretty much any device that picks up your voice, the sound, or picks up any sound and converts it to an electrical format, and then either amplifies it and sends it out to a speaker if you're talking about standard analog microphones, or converts it to an electric signal that the computer is then able to pick up. Your computer is able to pick up and share and use. They come in a variety of different things that are available. All of you, most webcams now, if you buy a webcam or if you have a laptop computer, there is a microphone built into those. So that's why you're able to do, if you've been doing a lot of Zoom meetings, or you've been doing anything else, if you've been doing like a Skype or Microsoft Teams, or whatever you've been doing for during the pandemic to kind of reach out to people on your computer, if you've been using Discord or in Slack or any of those kind of things, sometimes you don't have to hook anything up. It's your computer has something built in, and you're able to just start talking and it's able to pick it up. These microphones are okay. They're not really the best, and they're kind of cheap usually. I mean, unless you have a really high powered computer with a really high powered built-in microphone, they tend not to put a lot of effort into that built-in microphone. It's a good enough microphone for most purposes. Now, when you get into live streaming and you're constantly out there voicing, or you're constantly talking, and you want to make a good impression on your audience, you want to make sure you have good audio. I mean, it's one of the things that I think the past year has kind of taught all of us here and such, is that by having good audio, audio matters more than a lot of other things, in my opinion, when it comes to kind of our online communications now. So it's usually helpful to then go and upgrade your microphone. Now, the first upgrade I would recommend, if you're just getting into this and you're just getting started and you don't really want to spend a lot of money, is to go with just like a headset microphone. Now, this is like a gaming headset microphone, but you could go with just something that's a little bit smaller or whatever. The advantage of something like this is that it has built-in headphones, so you're already kind of like you're already helping out your audio in a lot of ways too, because if you don't have a pair of headphones when you're doing audio, your software usually has to do things like noise canceling. It has to cancel out your voice so you don't get echoes. By going with a headset like this, you end up having the microphone built in there. You end up getting your audio sound, and it just ends up being a lot clearer. So my recommendation is that if you're going to get started, look at getting a headset as kind of your first step, because it allows you to get something that gets set up with kind of a good setup with the microphone. They're usually clear. Their prices are usually a good entry price on there, and you can go from anywhere from starting off with like a $20. They can get expensive. You can start with like a $20 headset, but you can go up to and spend ones that are $150, $200. Now, as you get kind of more serious and you want to start getting some more flexibility in there, there are the USB microphones. Now, these are what are called condenser microphones. And so what happens is they're using the same technology that we have in a lot of analog microphones used for stage performances by musicians, by people making speeches. Whenever you go to an event and they have microphones set up, they have condenser microphones. We're going to talk about those microphones in just a bit. But these ones are built that they have a USB configuration. So they make it really easy to plug in and connect to your computer, and they just work. It's amazing actually how straightforward and simple they are nowadays. You just plug them in and your computer sees them and they connect with everything pretty much flawlessly. I'm actually using a version of this microphone. You can't see my mouse moving. Oh yes, you can. There we go. I'm using a version of this microphone right here. The Blue Yeti, or the Blue is the company Yeti microphone. And I love it. It was a little bit pricey. I did spend over $100 for this microphone, but it has been a really great introductory microphone. It gives a lot of control and power And it just kind of looks good. It's a real solid microphone. There are other things that kind of came out. Blue has a lower end microphone now that the reviews are spectacular on them as well too. And then there's like Logitech and Elgato, like other companies are coming out. Logitech specifically is another company coming out with a lot of different kind of streaming gear and webcasting gear. And so they're having some good microphones coming out there as well too. Now, the next level up from microphones is what they call an XLR microphone. XL at left and then R is right. And these are the professional grade microphones used in most real world situations. The thing about using an XLR microphone on the computer is that it does require additional equipment and setup to work. And so right next to it here, I have what's called a, I just looked it up earlier and my mind is going blank now. And I can't remember what it's called now. But yeah, so it's a device that allows you to plug the cable that's built into the microphone into this, and this is what then converts the signal into something that your computer is able to read. So this goes out to a USB usually, and then your computer is able to read it. The advantage of moving to an XLR microphone is that you're able to use the widest range of professional microphones that are out there. So this year's the Shure 58. This is one of the most famous looking microphones that's out there, but almost any other microphone, any other kind of standard XLR microphone that's available out there, once you've set up going with this type of microphone on there, so you can easily swap out the microphone, so you can easily step up and upgrade things as you go along. So you can start really basic and kind of move up. You can add in additional microphones. This is the XLR microphone on there. To answer this, so the question is, what type of microphone is this again? It's XLR, yep. And so XLR is typically a 3-pronged kind of plug. I haven't gotten to that step yet because I've been happy with my USB microphone. It's good enough for me. And so that's kind of where when you're starting to do you're starting to build your streaming ecosystem, it's really helpful to kind of put together what's good enough for you and good enough for that purpose. And then as you get more experience and start doing more things, you can start putting in and start adding and doing additional things. And that's what's kind of happened with me over the last like 4 or so years. I just started off with a webcam and a headset, and I've kind of gradually kind of started adding in pieces as I've gotten along. It's amazing how much I've spent on just a hobby that I don't really, I love doing it there, but it's kind of silly how much I'm going. So that has been microphones. So you can see that is part of our streaming ecosystem as well too. And now let's go back to our, let me switch back here. Let's go back to OBS and let's start looking at another source that we have going on in there. So what we're going to do, the other option is a video capture device. Video capture device being what they call a video capture device. You can see if I open up sources here, it's listed as video capture device. Video capture device is your camera or any other kind of video input going into your computer. We'll talk a little bit more about other video inputs a little bit later, but most cases when you're just kind of starting off, the video capture device is your webcam. And I'm just going to, so that phrase, I'm going to type in webcam here. Unfortunately, because of, okay, it's grabbing the wrong, okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to grab one of these other cameras here for right now. Yeah, so it's not really finding anything right now, but that's fine. Windows doesn't like to share cameras between different programs. So because I'm sitting here talking to you right here, OBS isn't able to use my camera feed. But you can see, so we can pretend that this little OBS icon here is my face sitting there talking to you on the screen here. This is what the camera is picking up. And you can see right now it's filled up the whole space in there. I have the little handles on the side so I can actually easily resize and move this around. And so this is where the building the scene comes together, is that I can shape this, I can put it whatever size I want, and then I can put it anywhere I want into the scene where I want people to see my my face as I'm talking. And so it's like to match, say, the broadcast that we're doing there, like I could put this here and then have content sitting right over here on the right side to kind of match what you're seeing on your screen right now. So I'm going to quickly go back to my PowerPoint presentation, and we're going to talk about cameras a little bit. This is a good time for that there. So I started off with, again, a lot of computers. If you have an all-in-one computer, if you have a laptop, they have a webcam built into them now. And again, the webcam is okay. It's not the greatest. It doesn't give you the best quality. It's usually a lower quality camera than you get if you buy something separate. So it's a good way to start. Like, so if you have a camera already built in, if you want to use your laptop for streaming and you want to use, you can just use the camera on your laptop. If you just want to get started, so you don't really have to spend anything extra for that there. As you get along and you get more comfortable and you want to start doing more, that's when you start looking at kind of upgrading the camera as an option. And so the first option to look at upgrading the camera is a webcam. This webcam here is Logitech. I'm by the way, I'm not endorsing any specific brands through this night here. These are just the ones that, just as my experience with a lot of technology, that generally tends to get kind of the best reviews and are the most talked about. But there are a lot of other companies. There's a lot of other brands out there that I may not be aware of that are probably just as good as well too. So just wanted to kind of put that little disclosure out there that I'm not really endorsing any of these here. They just happen to be the ones that I know about, and I know that they're kind of specific to use. So Logitech, they make a lot of there's Aukey that make webcams. There's a wide variety of webcams. Webcams are a little hard to get. I think it's a little bit easier now than it was a few months ago, but there was a period of time last year where it was impossible to get a webcam because everybody was buying them for their work or school from home. It's getting a little bit better, but they still are a little difficult to find and might still be a little bit expensive. Some of the things you want to start looking at in a webcam now is consider like what resolution or how do you want to stream? Do you want to stream at like 1080p? And resolution, as you start doing, you'll start figuring out things like resolution. Resolution is how many pixels are on your screen on there. So it's like how much information you can show on your screen at once. A lot of like, say, webcams built into like laptops or an all-in-one computers can't do high definition. They can't either. They won't be able to do like 1080p. They might be like the lower end of high definition if they do that at all. You upgrade to something like a webcam like the Logitech here, you can get into the higher resolution, get into high definition or like the super high definition, like the 4K cameras. They've just started coming. Actually, last year they started releasing and making them more available, the 4K versions of these cameras. Which has the 4,000 pixels. So you've heard 4K and 1080p in relation to television. So if you think about it, if you have a 4K TV in your home, or you have a 1080p TV in your home, and you're watching Twitch on there, do you want to be able to see something that uses that full advantages of the computer or of the television, or do you want to see something that might show up a little blurry on that computer? And so that's where the camera starts going in. The camera I'm using is able to capture at 1080p. I actually bought it specifically to upgrade that, and I haven't felt the need to move up to a 4K yet. So again, my setup is good enough for where I want to be right now, but there's always kind of room to upgrade. And so after you've gotten your webcam and you've gotten comfortable and you do want to upgrade and you want to get kind of that next professional kind of look there and such, is that there are people that use camcorders and digital SLR cameras to actually, they set those up as their streaming camera. And the advantage of these here is, again, you have a wide variety of different products out there with a lot more features than a webcam can do. A webcam is built that it just has a USB plug into the computer and you have software controls for it. When you move to something like a camcorder or a digital SLR computer or a digital SLR camera, you can do things like you can have different lenses on there and better control over things like focusing and framing and the things like your aperture settings and your and your aperture settings, your frame rate, the depth of field. You have a lot more control over those things. So you get to the point where you're more experienced and you want to get more control. You can start looking at cameras that can do that. And there is like a whole bunch of cameras, like camcorders and digital SLR cameras that can be set up to stream, that you plug them with a cable into your computer sees it as a camera that can be brought into OBS to broadcast or to whatever streaming software. In this case, you bring it to OBS. And so the advantage of that, again, is just a lot more flexibility, a lot more power, but they are also much more expensive than with the webcam. I mean, in order to get like a camcorder that can do the broadcasting, it's more than the $50 to $100 that we'll use. Yeah, so there's the Sony A6000. Public Library is mentioning using the Sony A6000 as their camera, and it's definitely flexible because depending on the situation, if you want to get a narrower shot or a wider shot, you can change the focus on that there, or even change out the lens if you need to kind of get the angle of the shot that you need. You could do fun things like you could put in a fisheye lens and have yourself broadcast kind of the weird kind of blurred fisheye kind of look. There's a lot of different kind of fun things you can do when you do that step up to the camera that you can't do with the webcam. So when you look at cameras, that becomes another part of your streaming ecosystem on there. So let's go back to OBS another time. And where am I on my notes? Okay, so now we have kind of the basics here in our on our scene right now. We have our audio coming in, we have our face coming in. We're pretending that this here is our face on there. Now we want to have the content. What are people watching? They're not watching this for me. Well, I mean, I hope you're watching this for me, but you're really not. You're watching this for the content that I'm giving to you. I don't have an ego enough to think that people are just going to come and watch me talk to them on the face. They want to see what I'm sharing in the rest of the broadcast. So we need to bring in the rest of the content. So I'm going to come back down here and I'm going to go into add source. And there's several different, and you can see there's a bunch of different things that you touch. And the ones we kind of want to focus on here is there's display capture, there's game capture, and we're going to come down and there's also window capture. And so all of those there, what they are is the capture means that this OBS is kind of going to reach out into your computer and grab basically the video feed that the camera, or that the video feed, that whatever content you're showing, and bring it into OBS to share out. So for example, game capture, what it'll do is it'll reach out and it'll find, with mixed results. I find sometimes game capture isn't perfect, doesn't work all the time, but game capture, what it'll do is when you start up a game, it'll identify, oh, there's a game, and grab that game content and put it onto the screen. Display capture will grab anything that's on the screen. So if you have your mouse moving around, you can see your icons. If a notification pops up, anybody looking with the display capture will see everything that's on there. If I did display capture right now and showed you the screen, we get this really headache-inducing infinite OBS kind of thing. So I'm not going to do that, actually. Window capture does similar to what game capture does, is it will grab a specific window. And so you'd use something like window capture if you wanted to be broadcasting something that isn't a game, that doesn't get grabbed by the game capture. So if you're doing digital artwork, like if you wanted to stream doing digital artwork in Photoshop, you would do a Windows capture of Photoshop, or a window capture of Photoshop, and you would show your Photoshop screen as you're working and doing that digital artwork in there. So that's an example there. So let's see actually if we can make game capture work. I have a couple things set up, and so we'll see how this kind of works. So we're going to go in and we're just going to call this, Windows game, because I'm grabbing this from Windows. And so you can see we come in here, and what I'm going to do actually is I'm going to tell it to actually grab a specific window, because the way I have things set up, let's see if it will grab. Yeah, here we go. Good. So I grab this. Let's see if it will put it in. So I'm grabbing, I have a game started up in the background. And here we are. So this is, and actually if I go in and see if I can get it, yeah, there we go. So now you're seeing it actually active, because I went in and I activated it. So it's actually loading up the rest of the title screen. So I'm pulling in Stardew Valley. So I have this loaded up in the background. And now I can come into here. Actually, hold on. Move my mouse to the right place. And now I can go in and I can set this up however I want. So I can put it here next to my camera view. So again, it's matching what we're doing in the presentation here. And you know what? If for just getting started off there and such, what I have right now, I'm actually ready to go out and stream. We have our face cam going on. It's picking up my voice with the microphone, and I have my content going. So, and you can choose different content. I mean, you can have OBS can look at multiple cameras. This was actually something I tried to do earlier tonight, and it just didn't work on my computer because I didn't have time to do it. But so you can do things like you can have a camera pointed at your face that you're talking to, and if you're, say, doing a cooking demonstration, you can have another camera come in and, say, do that overhead view into the bowl on and kind of, or whatever you're doing over your cooking space, so that people can actually see what you're doing as you're talking about it. And that's useful for things like even like craft kind of things. So if you're doing things like knitting, or I like to do quilting, and so I've kind of imagined how would I do like a stream kind of showing quilting and kind of setting up the camera, looking at my sewing machine or my work table, so people can kind of see what I'm doing on there. So you can do those kind of different kind of content that's in there. You can bring in like a browser window. So if you wanted to do something and show information on a browser, a good example is you can set up a scene on your, so that if you're done streaming for the night, but you want to leave this up for a little bit, just so you can maybe have a web page that shows your upcoming schedule on there, and you can update that, and you can then easily set it up so it pulls that in and just shows that. It's not something you have to set up every single time. It'll just show that web page with your upcoming schedule on there. So these are kind of different things that you're able to do with OBS. And you can kind of pull in anything that you can look at on your computer. You can generally pull in and show on OBS. So you can broadcast almost anything that you want to do on your computer, or share what you want to do there. And so you can have multiple content sources on your scene. So like here we have Stardew Valley kind of showing up there. But what happens if I want to bring in, say, maybe another thing on there? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to add another source. And what we're going to do is this is actually another video capture device, because and I'll talk about these video capture devices in just a bit as I'm talking about accessories. But right now what we're going to do is we're going to call this video capture card. And we're going to go here, and I'm going to have it grab. Okay, there we go. So it's grabbing my capture card, and I'm going to hit OK. And so now what it's doing actually is it's now pulling the feed. This is from my Switch actually, which I have connected in to the computer. And we're going to put this here. And so now on my scene that I'm showing here, we are sharing both Stardew Valley, if I was playing this on my computer, or we are showing Isabel here on my island in Animal Crossing New Horizons. So you can see I can have these multiple things. I have two different sources coming in. And again, we're pretending that this is my web camera talking to you right over here on the side. Some of the other things that I would do in the scene is, because of the way I had this set up, I don't like this black background. So I would likely maybe put in we can put in an image just into the background there. So we can call this background. So what is it? It's 8 o'clock. We're doing really well on time. And so let me just go find a picture to use quickly. This is the fun about doing this live, actually, is you get to see me in the weeds doing this here. Actually, I have a bunch here that work well. You know what? Let's just use one of these abstract ones. In fact, actually, I'll use what I'm currently using as my background here. Now, you'll see I brought this in, and it just brought the image on here. I'm going to do a quick transform to make it fit to the screen. Now you notice right now it's sitting and it's on top of everything. It's blocking the content that I have underneath. And so one of the nice things, again, if you think about the scene as kind of a your scene as a stage metaphor, is that you have your foreground of your stage and you have your background of the stage. And so you can like organize. So like my background would be like the backdrop. So I can move it down behind. And now you can see now it's now sitting behind the product. I no longer just have that black, I guess that wasn't that great of an image to use, actually. Let's use something else. Let's go with go green here. There we go. That's a little bit better. Oh, there we go. That's a little bit better. So it stands out a little bit more. Again, so yeah, you can see actually now is that now it's a little bit more pleasing kind of setup that's on there. I mean, if I wanted to, I'm gonna lock, and you can see I can lock things in place. So now I can't accidentally move them around. And what I'm gonna do is I'm just gonna set this here because I'm just kind of fixated enough that I like that lining that up onto that edge there. So now we have our scene kind of set up, and we're ready to stream at this point now. But let's actually, I just wanted to kind of take a little bit more time, and I just wanted to kind of talk a little bit more about equipment that I can't really demonstrate here in OBS. So let me go back to PowerPoint, and we're going to bring up kind of different accessories. So the first, if you're looking at doing your setup, the number one accessory, more than anything else, whether if you're going to do anything that you're going to have, say, a webcam and showing your face in there, is lights. Think about your lighting. It's really important how you do different lighting, because that's really kind of what demonstrates kind of the best view in your face. Or because if you don't have good lighting, things just kind of start not working properly. So you can get things like there's like ring lights, and what these are designed to do is these are designed, the camera lens goes into the middle in this hole there. So what happens is that the light is actually shining right where the lens is. So you're getting this direct light onto your face, which is the best way for the camera lens and the sensor in the camera to pick up your face, is that it's getting lit the best on there. My setup is actually just a couple of desk lamps. I actually have 2 lamps and 2 lighting, because the standard recommendations for lighting when you're especially if you're in kind of a set position like we are here. I'm sitting at my desk and this is my set position here, is to have a direct light. So that's where something like the ring light is directly shining onto your face. And so I have a desk lamp here pointing directly at my face. And you may think, okay, that's bright. And yes, it is. And I've just gotten used to it over 4 years of having this light shining into my eyes the whole time. And then I have what's known as a fill light. And the fill light I actually have over on the other side, and it's kind of pointed down. And what it's doing is just kind of giving a more diffuse lighting all around underneath of us. So what it's doing is it's kind of filling in like the sharper shadows. And what I would do actually is I'll show you what happens when I turn off the my fill light. And now you can kind of see very specifically that my direct light is coming here from my right side. My left side is now shadowed. And there's a lot more shadows around me. And you actually, even like my green screen, I have a green screen behind me right now, but even that there, you can see it's actually not chroma keying as well on this side over here. You can actually see the color of the green screen that's on there. And so that's where the lighting, my green screen and the camera, everything is set up with the lighting that I have set up. And so if I turn this one back on, and as I turn off the other one, just so you can kind of see where the direct light is going. So now what happens is you can see the fill. The fill is coming a little bit up from my downside of the face there. It's not lighting this here, and it's not lighting this side of the face at all. So that's the difference in what my lighting setup is doing. It's providing a much more concise or not a much more focused lighting setup, so that the camera doesn't have to work as hard at trying to kind of figure out where my face is and work with the space around. I'm going to turn this back on to make sure you can see me properly. A lot of people, they start off with just like a direct light, and then they use their monitor. Like their monitor, because you have this big screen that actually is just showing light at you and such. The monitor can be a fill light in some ways. I've just gotten things set up so that I do prefer the 2 lights and kind of more focus. Maybe one upgrade I want to consider. Right now, it's just bulbs looking out, and I have considered getting things like actually like a diffusing fabric that I can put over the light that kind of spreads it out a little bit more, makes it a little bit softer. I just haven't done that in like the 4 years that I've had this set up. But yeah, so so lighting is, if you're looking at doing streaming and you're looking at kind of stepping up your gear, the first thing I would always say in your ecosystem is the microphone. Make sure that your audio sounds good. You can bring in whatever content. You can decide not to have a face cam, but if you're providing any sort of talking or a voice kind of aspect to whatever you're doing, a commentary to what you're doing on there and such, you want to make sure that your microphone is good. And I didn't even actually include, if you're doing things like crafting or you're doing things where you're not sitting at a desk there and such, you can get like clip-on like lavalier microphones, and you can use those as well too. And those kind of fit either into the XLR stage, or they can even be USB as well too. And if you're actually doing live streaming like on your phone, you can get microphones that can plug into the phone as well too, and improve over the microphone that's in the phone. So first thing with your ecosystem is always consider your sound and your microphone on there. Next, cameras, depending on what you want to stream and what you want to share on your stream. There's a lot of people who stream that don't share their faces, that don't want to be seen on there, and that's perfectly fine. The streaming is what you want to do. And so if you're not comfortable having your face there, or you just want to do it, don't do it. This is your choice how you want to do there and such. Then the next thing is lighting. So if you are doing something with camera, lighting, or if you're doing anything again that's outside of a computer setup. So if you're not pulling anything from the computer, if you're doing cooking or you're doing crafts or artwork, you'll want to make sure that you're lighting the space that you're working, not only for your own benefit to see what you're working at, but better lighting there means that your camera is able to pick it up better. So with the camera that then pulling it and showing to the computer. The next thing over here actually are capture devices. And so what happens is that capture devices come in either like an internal card that can install your computer, or they have a USB connection here. It's either USB or DisplayPort. And it's an external one there. So this works well with laptops. This works better with like desktop computers. And what this does is this allows you to bring in external video sources. So in a video game sense, because that's a lot of what I do, this allows me to connect my PlayStation and my Switch into my computer, so that instead of streaming directly from the console, which I could do, I'm able to pull, and we can go back to OBS and I can show you, I'm able to pull in what's on my Switch screen right now. I'm able to pull that in here and show that in OBS and get all of the streaming benefits that I get from using OBS Studio. I can decide how much screen space this takes up. I can decide where it shows up in relation to my camera. I can record it if I wanted to. So the capture card, the capture equipment is also very good for recording. So that's kind of that next step of is depending on what you want to stream. If you want to pull from like a gaming console, or trying to think what else you would actually plug into there. Like a DVD player would plug into the capture device if you wanted to like record movies or videos. Again, be careful of copyright. And I will do a brief talk on copyright and things to kind of keep in mind with that there. But so things like a DVD player, a Chromecast. Earlier on in the year when the pandemic was going on, I was trying to play around with different things I could do digital technology wise. And I figured out how I can get my tablet, my Android tablet. I can do a Chromecast, plug it into my capture device, and get my tablet screen into OBS. I never actually did anything with it, but it was a kind of a fun thought experiment on how to get my tablet into OBS so that I could actually maybe do like a class or something on it. So that's the capture devices, and then green screen. As I mentioned, I do have a green screen behind me. In fact, actually, I wonder if I can just let me see if I can. There we go. It's showing up as blue right now if I do this, but so it's just a green screen that's set up behind me, and I've told the software to go in and oh, there we go. Get that set back again, and actually then erase the green and put it in place. And so what it does is it's allowed. One of the things for me is that its benefit is that the space behind my desk is a space that people can kind of walk through. And so if I didn't have that there, anybody who walked down behind me would be in my shot. Plus, I don't really have a good backdrop behind me. It's not really that interesting. Whereas with the green screen, I can put whatever I want there. Or what happens is I can, if I go back to OBS here, this was something, is that if it was here, you would actually see like this green background behind me and myself kind of cut out through there, because anything that was green would disappear. So the green screen is, again, it depends on what you want to do and your setup. It's on Twitch for a while. It was the big thing. Everybody was doing the green screen thing, or blue screen. I actually, my green screen is reversible. The other side is a blue screen. And this is a funny story. The first time I got it, it's like, okay, you know what? Everybody's doing green screen. Let me see what happens if I try blue. And I actually learned that my eyes are blue enough that if I try to do the blue screen, they get erased with the screen in a lot of cases. So that's actually why a lot of films have changed from green to blue, actually, or from blue to green screens for their digital effects technology, because green screens, removing the green screen from the footage when you're doing special effects or something is a lot easier than blue is, because blue shows up in a lot more places that's important, whereas green is not as important. So yeah, it's just kind of just like a funny thing I found is, I can't actually use the blue screen because my eyes disappear and I have these like holes in my face. So those are kind of like different accessories going on. So we'll kind of move those into part of the accessories there. And then, as I mentioned, the consoles can then be part of your ecosystem as well too. So let me see what I have in my notes here. So those are the accessories configuration. I'm not going to go too much into depth with the configuration of OBS to start connecting it to Twitch and to do and the configuration. So like, what's your streaming bit rate? There's some really good tutorials and walkthroughs out there that can do it a lot better than I can in the time that I have. I've actually taught a whole 2-hour course on that there and such, so I can't really do that in this time here. But at least at the minimum, what you'll need to do when you're working with OBS is you need to set up your connection with Twitch. And I'm just going to kind of just quickly go in and just kind of show you here on the settings. You can see on the settings, when we go into the settings here, over here on the left is we have a stream setting. And so on here, you can choose the service that you're going with. And then there's this term here called the stream key. And I'm not going to show you what this is. If you've set up a channel on Twitch and you want to start streaming there, make sure to keep your stream key safe and secret, because if anybody gets that stream key, they can then stream to your channel without your permission. They can just plug it into their own software and use it. But what you would do is you would get, once you've signed up for your account on Twitch and got everything set up, you would go and you would grab this information from there and you would paste it into here. OBS also has the option you can actually sign into your Twitch account if you wanted to. So you can see connect account here. So I could actually go in and just sign in and it would automatically pull my stream key from there. But yeah, so that's what, and so now what happens is that OBS is actually now connected to Twitch, so that when if I click the start streaming button over here, it would then start streaming to my channel. So actually, I wanted to go and I just wanted to show you, since we're talking about Twitch, and so we're going to bring it up here. This is the stream manager view for Twitch. So when you go to twitch.tv and you go to your channel, you can see when you come into the home, it kind of takes you to this kind of dashboard here that tells you kind of gives you some information about your last stream. You can see last time I streamed was last Tuesday on the 26th, so a week before yesterday. I haven't done much this week, unfortunately. There's things like lessons that are going. They've added in a lot of this here from where I first started. It used to be kind of like you were kind of on your own when you first started, but there's been a lot more kind of guidance and walkthroughs to kind of get new people into it and kind of get going. And so they're really all about. And so like I'm very low level. I have like 23, 24 followers, or 24 now actually. And so there's different things you can. They'll give you like these little goals that you can do to try to hit things like become affiliate or partner. I'm just doing it for fun because I like the technology and I like to have a lot of fun with it. But we're going to move into the stream manager here. So when you're streaming from OBS, you'll generally want to have this opened up in some place that you can see it. Twitch does have mobile apps. So they have apps for iOS and Android that you can put onto your phone or tablet. And if you sign in with your account there and you start streaming, you can do things like you can view your chat on the phone or tablet. You can modify things. You can do things like moderate your chat, so you can like silence people or ban them or kick them if you need to. You can edit stream information, so you can do all of that from your phone if you need to. If you don't have another screen, you may notice actually throughout the night I've been kind of like looking around, like up to the sides and down there. Such I have multiple screens set up, and so usually what I do is I have things put up onto different screens as I'm streaming, so I don't need to go look at like my phone or tablet. But for people starting off, they're not going to have the multiple screens. You might be just on your laptop there, and then that's taking up with whatever you're playing or whatever you're showing, with Streamlabs running or with OBS running in the background behind that. And then so you can then use your phone or tablet and keep an eye on like what your chat is saying. So when you come in, we're going to come up here and we can go to edit stream info. And so this is where you're able to go in and kind of put in the title for your stream. So what we're going to do is we're going to call this a demonstration stream. So the nice thing about this is my channel, so I can do whatever I want on it, as long as I'm within the rules. Stream for the East Brunswick Public Library Maker Month. And so then what happens is I can go and I can do a category, and we're going to just call this one here just chatting. It's helpful to kind of put in things. So having a descriptive title, something that kind of draws people in. There are some people that get kind of really clickbaity with this kind of thing. I like to be kind of straightforward and kind of describe either kind of what I'm planning to do that night. Moving down, you can have the notification, like what happens with people who are following you. What's the notification that they'll see when I go live? Categories are important because this is how your potential audience finds you. So if you're playing Overwatch or you're playing Fortnite, you want to put that in there. So people are looking for streamers playing Overwatch or Fortnite, they'll find you. In this case, I put this into just chatting, and it means that anybody who's just looking for maybe some chill conversation or somebody talking, they can find this in there. It's a good, just chatting ends up being kind of like the generic catch-all for anything that isn't like a specific activity that people are doing on Twitch. And you can change this through your stream as well too. So you can start off your stream as being just chatting, where you sit and maybe, there's streamers that I follow where the start of their streams, they sit there for an hour, half hour, 45 minutes and just kind of chit chat with people in the chat. And talk about kind of what their life has been like, and then it's like, okay, now it's time to get started, and they'll dive into like whatever game or whatever they're doing on there. Tags, different ways that you can kind of tag your stream in a lot of ways. It's putting me in IRL or in real life right now because just chatting, it's a real life kind of thing. And then I'm able to choose the language that I have here. And so again, if you wanted to be able to find streams in other languages, so if I wanted to go find people streaming in Spanish or French or Arabic or Persian, Farsi, I can go and do that there. I don't speak any of those languages, but if I wanted to watch somebody streaming in those languages, I can. And I can use their stream language filter to kind of do that. So once I've done that, I'm going to hit done. And now I've updated my stream information. You can see right down here on the bottom, it has the stream information. For some reason, it still has the tags from the previous game that I had there. So now what I'm going to actually do is I am going, and so some other things you can see over here. You can see we have our activity feed over on the left. And I'm just going to close this so we have a little bit more space. The activity feed will show you when people follow you or different kind of activities. And then there's the chat room. So when people start sending chats, you're able to see it on there. So when I first started off streaming and before I moved to Streamlabs OBS, I was using Streamlabs as I would have this window, this browser window opened up on another screen and be able to keep an eye on the chat and a preview of what the stream looks like. Because sometimes you think everything is going fine, and then all of a sudden you look over and it's not. It's not showing what you expect it to be showing, or it's just not working at all. So what I'm going to do actually right now is I'm going to go in and I'm going to click the start stream, and we're going to hope this works. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually starting the stream. And you can see in OBS now, it has, it's telling me that it's live. It's also recording. I have mine set up so that as soon as I hit streaming, it starts recording to the computer. So I have recordings of everything that I do. And then it tells me kind of the bit rate or the quality that it's sending out. And right now it's green, which is good. And so these are just kind of things as you're streaming that you're just kind of checking on as you go through. Just kind of a quick glance there as if you're driving, you're checking kind of your rear view mirrors, or like your speedometer. It says, okay, everything's looking smooth. If this turns red, then I know I'm having a problem with my internet. So now let's actually go back to here, and you can see now, here's my stream preview showing the image and me talking to you on there. And Melissa here is actually in the channel, and she says, hi, and she's now following me. So I'm seeing these kind of different kind of interactions going on as I'm streaming. And if I go and look at, let's see if I can go, yep, here we go to the channel. I'm going to open this up, and you can kind of see if somebody browsed to my channel, this is what they would be seeing right now. And so I'm live now, and I'm wondering if it's not showing it quite well, but yeah, so this is, oh, here we go. Let me, it's blocking. I have Firefox kind of locked down on a lot of things. So there we go. So now it is playing the video. So now this is what somebody comes into my channel here and is able to start watching. I can bring in the chat here, and we can kind of see the chat so people are able to kind of say, I'm going to say hello to myself in my own chat. So yeah, so this is how kind of you get in and just kind of start streaming on Twitch. Twitch is actually one of the easier platforms to get into. It's free. You can go create your account for free on there, and they've done a really good job kind of just actually kind of walking people into setting up and get started with their first streaming. And it's out of the different platforms. I've streamed on a bunch of different platforms. I've played around with YouTube. I used to play around with Mixer. Mixer was Microsoft's competitor to Twitch up until sometime last year, where they actually closed it all down. I streamed on there. I find overall that Twitch is the most user-friendly and the most solid platform out of the ones. It's the one that gives me the most flexibility and power, I find, going in and streaming. And it's less confusing to get started than some of the others. Like going on to YouTube, you actually have to go through and you have to get your account confirmed, and you have to actually wait a day. You actually have to wait 24 hours between getting the account confirmed and before you can actually start streaming. I think Facebook Live is a similar. Mixer was the same way too, is that there had to be some sort of like approval process in there. Twitch, as far as I know, right off the bat, you create your account, you can connect to your channel and get going right off the bat there. So I'm actually going to stop the stream there so that other people don't, and then come over here and just do stop streaming. So I have talked a lot. And I just want to know if there are any questions. This is actually, let me go back to my PowerPoint presentation because I have a good slide for this. I have this here. So we have about 10 minutes left, and I will answer whatever questions you have. Or I can just keep talking. I am available. You can reach out to me at Skornia, or you could, how do you, oh, say, thank you. Thank you. I kept mentioning I wanted to use copyright or talk about copyright. Okay, so copyright has become a really big issue on Twitch, on YouTube, on Facebook Live, streaming music, and there's been a lot of like strange issues that have happened from music on there and such. So you have to be really careful when you're including, especially music on Twitch. Twitch has an algorithm that it listens to any music that's on your channel as you're broadcasting, and if it matches the music that you're playing in the database that it has. So if you go through and you play, it was Agatha All Along from WandaVision on there, said you play that there and such, Twitch's algorithm may recognize that there, and what it will do is it will mute. Your broadcast will still play through. People will still be able to hear the music. But if you go back and watch the recording of that on Twitch, it will mute where that music was and the 30 minutes around it, so that the video on demand is just silenced during that time. There are ways to safely bring in music into Twitch. Twitch, back in September, their big thing, Twitch had a huge copyright issue with music happening last summer. And it ended up with a lot of people deleting a lot of their video on demands and a lot of kind of recorded stuff. In September, Twitch launched the beta of what they call Twitch Soundtrack. And what Twitch Soundtrack is, in fact, actually, why don't I show it to you? What's Soundtrack by Twitch? And what this is a large collection.
Hey, Frank, something's happened to your microphone. I'm not sure what happened, but it's when you pulled up the Twitch soundtrack, it did that.
Mute. Okay, how's that? It muted me. Am I in now? Yay, fun technology. Okay, so you saw what it looked like.
Time. We're live streaming.
Yeah, it's the fun. It's one thing I love about that there. So that's actually a good tip when you're live streaming, is get to know your equipment really well. Know where things happen. I happen to know that if I move my microphone in a certain way, the cable actually does. I have them so that the tensions are pretty good, but my cable can come out sometimes. So that's why I was checking over to see if that happens. So yeah, so what Soundtrack by Twitch does is it gives you music that you can safely play on stream that won't mute your actually the way it works is really interesting is that it actually will not the music will not show up on the recording. So I tend to use Soundtrack by Twitch for like my pre-show, like before I get started. This is what we'll be playing when I have my just starting or starting soon screen going on. I'll go to it when I go to like be right back, just so there's some audio kind of going across on the stream so people don't know it's just dead air. And so YouTube has their option. If you want to do YouTube streaming, YouTube has their YouTube music library, which is a huge collection of music that is safe to play on YouTube, but only YouTube. You can't take that library and play it on Twitch. There might be some overlap, but it's not guaranteed. So yeah, so that's kind of safely playing music there. And yeah, so I think I was talking about the record producers, and just to think about what happened when I was muted possibly is that there was like the record producers and the artists and people who hold the rights to music. Twitch is contracted with them so that that music can be used in any Twitch stream. So yeah, so any other questions? I'm waiting for questions. Copyright. There's been a lot of questions lately about like video games and whether it's okay to stream them with regards to copyright. And it's kind of a gray area. It technically isn't really legal, but a lot of developers and right holders kind of look the other way on this year because it brings in a lot of publicity for their product. There are a lot of developers out there right now that actually work really closely with their streaming communities and people who stream their games, and they like to see their games out there being played and people enjoying them. So they don't really come down hard on them there. But at the same time, there has been cases where like a developer maybe they don't want their game being streamed, or they don't want to share something going on in there, and so they have used the DMCA, the Digital Millennia Copyright Act, to take down streams or stop streams. Nintendo is kind of notorious about this year. So if you're thinking about doing some video game streaming, be careful sometimes around Nintendo product. Go out there and see what other people are streaming and watch people who are streaming what you want to stream. And to kind of get a sense of what they're doing and what they're showing, so you can either figure out like what you want to copy or what you want to make different for yourself. And then there's things like that. There's usually like restrictions on things. So like I know one game I remember playing, the developers specifically prohibit any sort of streaming on there because they don't want people to get spoiled about things going on in the game. And so, I mean, people have gone around that and they have played it, but they've been playing that kind of roulette with the developer about whether or not it will get taken down or canceled. Even that one, like, it wouldn't actually, like, it was hard coded onto like the PlayStation, so you couldn't actually stream from the PlayStation, but I could do it through my computer if I had wanted to do it. So yeah, so copyright's complicated, and it's really worth kind of looking into before you, as you're making choices of what you're doing.
So it doesn't seem like we have any questions. We do have a thanks actually from our tech trainer who's been watching in and taking notes as well. Does
Awesome.
anyone have any questions in Enchanty? Any AJLO Media? Anyone have any questions? If not, I'm gonna thank you so much.
Okay, and
the cool thing that things like this can be done over the internet. So you're a few states away, but thank you for this program. I hope that some of you are inspired to, if you were thinking about using Twitch or doing live streaming, to step in. There's a lot of great resources beyond this. Frank might be able to give us some links that we can put in the descriptions afterwards, so you can see some tutorials, and hopefully you're inspired to do something. That's the whole mission of Maker Month, which is an official New Jersey Makers Day event here at East Brunswick Public Library. Thank you everyone so much for coming. Be safe and be well. Bye guys.